Right, now we're going to move on to another strategical idea that black has in the French defence. If you look at the position that arisen on the board here, this is a game I had against a good friend of mine, Richard Pert, who's a strong IM from England and now a stockbroker, so very good chess player. This was played a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. I had the black pieces here. You might remember Richard from the first DVD that GingerGM did with the Killer Dutch DVD. He did a very good game which I used as the introductory game for that DVD against Peter Sauray, where he won very quickly. Now in this position, this is a kind of typical structure that you'll get in the Tarish variation. If you can imagine, this position would have arisen once black has played the move c5 earlier on, and then c takes d4. So that's how the c file has become open. Another typical move that black has played is the move f6. We can see we've opened up our rook on f8. So black has played these two ideas, c5 and f6, earlier on. What has white played? Well, white's played this bishop to f4 idea. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, the dark square bishop is often black's best piece. Now, in the Tarish variation particularly, white plays bishop to f4, or sometimes he moves the bishop around to g3 via g5, h4, g3 to swap off the dark squared bishops. The weakness that black's main weakness in this position is his e5 square. So positionally, maybe black's in a bit of trouble here because e5 is very weak, and maybe this pawn on e6 can become a target for white. But black also has a lot of tactical ideas in this position. He has tactical ideas based on the f file and often on the d4 square. The d4 square is basically white's main weakness in this variation, and as I've mentioned before, this is his Achilles heel, which black does well to attack in a lot of variations. So in this position, what did I play? Well, the move I'm going to recommend later on in this DVD is knight to g4 in this position, which I think is a very good idea, where black's at least equal here. Actually, white's probably advised to take a draw in certain variations here. The idea behind knight to g4 is to sacrifice on f4. You will see that I quite enjoy sacrificing in the French, so we'll come to a lot of positions where I make this possible, and hopefully most of them are sound as well. So in this game I decided not to play knight g4, but I played a typical manoeuvre here. Now all my pieces developed except really my bishop on c8 and my rook on a8. So how can I bring him into the game? Well, this next idea is a typical manoeuvre which you've got to remember in the French. It comes up in a lot of positions. Now, where do we put this bishop? Try to imagine the best square you'd have this bishop on if you were playing black here. Well, I wouldn't really want to put it on b7. This is a silly square for the bishop because we're hitting against our pawn on d5. It makes no sense. So b7 is a bad square. So what would be the best square on the board to get it to? Well, particularly in this variation, white's played this move g3, which has weakened his kingside squares, his light squares on his king side. So if we can get our bishop around to the king side, that would be ideal. So what I played here was bishop to d7. Now this is a typical idea in these type of structures. Once you've played f6, I have to make this quite clear that this manoeuvre I'm about to show is only really worth considering once black has played the move f6. So first of all, can you see the route the bishop's going to take? Well, the bishop's going to go to e8 next, and then the bishop's going to come all the way out to h5, which is an ideal square for the light square bishop. And this has only been made possible because black has played the move f6. If the black pawn was still on f7, this whole manoeuvre would not be possible. So another good reason why f6 is a good plan. So let's see how Richard played against this idea. Well, he played rook to c1. Now, this is a typical idea. We're pinning the knight on c6, but it's a bit too slow in this position. Maybe it's even worth awarding this move a dubious mark here. So now I played bishop to e8. Very good move. The bishop's coming over to h5. How did white continue? Well, he played knight to g5. He was trying to take advantage of my weak e6 pawn, which I've mentioned in the past can be a problem for black. But here I just played queen to d7. So defending e6. Richard took on d6. Bishop takes d6. I now recaptured on d6. Queen takes d6. And my opponent now played pawn to f4. This is probably slightly dubious as well. It looks like White's got a very good grip on the e5 square. Well, he has got a very good grip on the e5 square, but he's also got a lot of weaknesses around his light squares. So after bishop to h5, I got a very good position very quickly, just because of the strength of this one piece, which started off as a very bad piece on c8, but now has become my best minor piece, just because of this manoeuvre, bishop to d7, bishop to e8, bishop to h5. My opponent played bishop to b5, so he's trying to possibly take on c6 to intensify his control of the e5 square. My knight on c6 is currently defending this square, so he wants to swap it off. So I didn't oblige, I just went knight to e7 here. So my knight has also got a good square on f5. I'm going knight to f5, and then maybe knight to e3. So let's just see a couple more moves. Queen to d3 was played. I now played knight to f5, so my pieces are slowly coming in. Richard played knight to f3, and now I played knight to e4. And we can see how all my minor pieces have just taken control of the light squares around White's king. Very promising position. The bishop's very well placed on h5 because of this strong bishop manoeuvre, which you have to remember. And my knights on f5 and on e4 are taking up very dangerous roles as well. So bishop to d7, bishop to e7, bishop to h5. Worth considering once you've played the move f6.